I did it! Hi guys. It is time for a new video. I know I haven't done one in a long time, but I think given Diablo 4's launch and the fact that we claimed it. World first, level 100 hardcore as a group, with Carn taking the overall first. Very cool. Very, very cool. Right, so this video will be a one take. It is 6 AM. I woke up at 4 AM. I couldn't sleep. Decided, why not sit down and make a video on our journey and some thoughts on the race, the things surrounding it, and then for the first half we'll do that, and then the second half, since so many people have been asking for it, I'll go over my build and what I came up with for this race. Right, so first off, right, we won. It was pretty cool. So where do we start? Let's go from the beginning. So D4 gets announced. It's coming soon. I was like, okay, beta's coming out and everything. I was like, oh, should we push and try for world first? And we're like, okay, we could. Sure. People are up for it. It is kind of weird with streaming dynamics and everything these days, because when you group up and you have to like be on the same team, because everyone here are basically, everyone mostly are solo streamers now. We all play solo self-found, but we have historically played as a team. And we play ARPGs as a team. So why not do it again for the D4 launch? And we agreed, you know, we discussed things, how we're supposed to do it, and like with comms and everything, and decided, sure, we're gonna do it. That was like 4 to 6 months before, I think, we launched. And then we kept having like talks every now and then. Oh, when are we gonna start prepping? When are we gonna start prepping? And I think it took until just around when the first it took around until when the first public beta came out. So there were two public betas. There was the first one, and then there was the server slam. And so those were the two we played in. The first one we all played quite a bit. Played with most of the characters, did a little bit of group testing. But in hindsight, it didn't really accomplish much. But it did, I will say, the testing at least. I mean, it was essentially from what, once we started playing, it was kind of known within a few hours. Now, what we did know is that split farming was pretty good. At least on the live servers. Or at least on the beta servers. So that was like what we got out of that, and some optimizations, and we tested like kind of how logouts worked and fleshed that out. I tried to figure out, but that whole thing kind of was changed at the start of the race anyways. So pretty cool, but essentially we decided we're gonna go for it. Now then, before the whole thing started, you know, there was a bit of controversy, and I kind of wanna delve into that whole thing a little bit, because for some reason I kind of get it. Blizzard decided to come out with the idea of having a race for getting your name on a little statue that's gonna be placed at Blizzard. So we're all on it, which is really cool, but two things happened around that. Now with this, it definitely gave a lot more attention to playing on hardcore and getting, you know, to essentially speedrun the race, which was a little bit odd, because I was really looking forward to, with not too much attention being put on it as a race, I was looking forward to maybe watching some of the cutscenes. But after the little statue thing was announced, I just immediately essentially said, okay, I will skip every single thing for the sake of trying to win. So it hurt me a little bit as a player who enjoys the first experience of games. And so having that in there was bittersweet. Like, it was sweet having that stake in the race, but also you know, the bitterness of not really getting to experience the first go as I would have liked. But it's a sacrifice you have to make if you want to go for these kind of things. It's just how it is. With that, some teams, well, one team particularly, kind of threw in their bid for pushing hard, which was when Ben and Max, and I think it was Ben, Max, and Shroud, who said they were looking for a fourth, which ended up being Exile. Which Ben and Exile are currently the two most accomplished gauntlet racers, I think, currently in PoE. And Exile is placed for, or is one of the fastest short-term races as well. Ben also very fast in that format, but Exile just qualified for the ExileCon race, which is really cool. So obviously, with those two in there, and I know people are memeing on Shroud a little bit in terms of ARPGs, but he has played a lot of ARPGs recently, and he is a certified gamer across many genres, and skill tend to translate when you're a gamer. Like, it's just how it is. Like, I don't want to discuss this right now, but it just does. So believe me on that he is a gamer. And Max, the raid leader of one of the most accomplished WoW guilds, right, that's a real gamer squad. So we definitely had something cut out for us. Now, secondly, a bit of controversy was around the press client where Voodoo had access, and other prominent content creators and very, very capable D3 streamers and players in general. And so the compromise that Blizzard made on that was that because one thing that really gives you an edge is having played content before. And I'll get into that a little, like, after a little bit. Well, I might as well get into it now. So what they did essentially was say, you're not eligible for the statue, but that means you're not allowed to race, because there's no actual real restrict. Like, that's just, the game is just launching. You want to go for first? You can. Now, a lot of the controversy is now around group versus solo play. And I want to chime in on this discussion a little bit, because if there's one thing the Diablo franchise and ARPGs historically have been, is group play. It's group, like, it is a multiplayer game. It is not a solo game. Historically, they have never been. Even in PoE, it is mostly played as a multiplayer game with more people. You play in groups and all that. And so that is just how people play RPGs. I mean, if people want this nostalgia of D2 and all that, and they want all that back, I mean, if you want that, then you gotta come to terms with the idea that this game is a group game. I have a little snippet for one of the biggest rivalries that were ever in the Diablo genre, which was this here, right here. We have the archives, the Diablo 2 wiki here, Barb. I wasn't aware, like, I wasn't really playing on this level when this first happened, but, like, I've been told the story in like, since then, since becoming more of, like, a racer and someone who, like, pushes for levels in these kind of games. And this is all the way back from D2 Classic, where you had essentially two Barbs. There was Barb and Rush Barb. I think it was a Russian and a German player who were trying to go for World First 99. And basically, what it ended up being was a bunch of people feeding, it was two teams, feeding runs and XP and shrines to these two Barbs who were, like, trying to win it out. By killing Diablo over and over again because he gives the most, and you, like, XP shrine him, and you're essentially setting up XP. Now, this was something that was kind of needed to even break the 99 back then. But to say that beating, like, getting max level is not an achievement, or is not, like, the way to play or the real way of leveling, it kind of irks me a little bit because it's just how it is. It has been. For many years, it was the preferred, or it was the way of racing in PoE. In Diablo 3, everyone grouped as well. I mean, the world's first Inferno kill here, Crip and Crippy. I know a lot of people like Crip gets a lot of attention, but really, like, Crippy was a essential part of this whole thing as well. Like that combo, like those two guys, like really fucking just showed the world like what you could do, and so like the whole group versus solo, it's kind of like just let each accomplishment stand on its own, because as a solo self-harm player in PoE as well, I recognize the difficulty, because I've played against the best players in both group content and in solo content, and trust me, neither of those are easy feats when you're playing against the best people in the world. And honestly, I would argue we were playing against some of the best people in the world, both a solo player and the group players. Like, there's not many people. There was a group of I wasn't sure how hard they pushed, but they were there. They were close to our level at the time, and maybe they would have pushed if they had gotten an edge earlier, which were Waggle, Goratha, I think maybe Helm. It's just like old school PoE players. Like, incredibly strong competition all the way around. And you have a bunch of like D3 players who, I used to play with all of these guys back in D3. They're hardcore gamers, all of them. Let's just get that out of the way. Voodoo is an incredible player as well. Now, here comes the now down to the whole like, okay, oh, is Voodoo the real winner because he did it solo and like exploits and all that? People find the easiest way to XP all the time. It's just how it is. And with Voodoo, the real question was, well, and this was really interesting from my point of view, because I found it like, could we as a group essentially overcome the advantage that he had from having the access to the press client? And I was really worried that we wouldn't be able to catch, because he had a gigantic lead, really like edging out on like getting XP all the time efficiently while gearing up his character. Now that was the real question for me, because we were not gearing very well. Like, it was hard to figure out like, what's the comp, what are we gonna do, how are we gonna convert this into like an XP gain later. When we discussed, are we going to go for Paragon and push? Initially I thought, no, we're not. After I realized how hard the game actually ramps up to be, I definitely came in on the camp of, we have to do it, because we were not efficient enough with our builds to essentially have powerful enough builds to really push content later on, I thought. And it turned out that was actually correct. At the very end, when we had the final showdown, our group against Ben Exile, Shroud, and Max, like, they even said like they eventually couldn't keep the pace, because they just weren't as powerful as we were, because we had gotten like we'd taken the time to farm that, and also they had a couple rips, so they probably were under geared. Now it was a little bit weird because their gearing or their levels kind of meant that they had an easier time for a while. Because of how content scales, you can actually bring in lower characters into high content and clear it easier. But once you level up, if you're not geared well enough that we were, you will start to fall off again. So the lead was shrinking into something very close, and then it stabilized. And it was basically 20 minutes apart. But I think they would have started going slightly slower over time with how everything is. And it was like, I was like thinking, oh shit, are they gonna overtake us? And then maybe we can etch it back again and overtake them before they win it out. I was like, holy, I was a nerve wreck at that point. So that was really cool. That was really, really cool. Like, once we finally capitalized and we figured out how to essentially turn group play into a more efficient machine for XP, in the back of my mind, I was like, surely group play is better, and probably by a lot. But I don't know if we will manage to really capitalize on it in time. And I'm happy we did. I really am happy with it. It was amazing. There are so many angles to this, and mad props to Vudio for his like you know, for how much he actually pushed it. That was real sweet. But also to Ben and their group. Now this raises an interesting question though, I will say, because there is, I'm not sure, I think maybe he was the first, but there's a guy called Snadat who is a certified gamer who races he just solo plays and races and plays crazy stuff in PoE every league, and he will take some of the most risk all the time, and he's very fast. He managed to solo to 100 as well on hardcore. I think he announced that yesterday, and now, but he didn't have press access, and so is he the real winner? Now all of this is like, is it the group, is it the single player? I think all of these, everyone who pushed themselves and got these things are all giga gamers in my mind. I have mad respect for everyone, and it's just like, it's hard to say. I think for the world first, we won. There's only one of them. And then you can say, well, world first, solo self-found. I mean, Vudio. And then you can go further and say, world first, solo self-found without. And it's all kind of weird. And honestly, I don't really care too much about it. We're all gamers. We're all just passionate. And we just want to blast and have a good time. And we did. Now there was a suggestion thrown out there, which would have been the most pure, which would have been push the statue into season 1. And so we're gonna have the race in season 1 essentially, where everyone has had access to the game and have garnered some knowledge, and we can have like a real blast. But that also, then everything is known, and it's also kind of weird because going into the game the first time and figuring everything out is also something that you can't replicate. You only do it once. So I definitely prefer when the game is more blind, because I mean, as a player, I can capitalize more on that because I find myself to be really good at really figuring out how to like deconstruct games. And it's something I really enjoy. So I really felt like I was in like my comfort zone with how things work, and like, can I like turn this around? And I felt like I did a really good job. Personally, I think everyone did on our team, honestly. But on a personal note here, that was something that really just, it felt good. It felt good to really just kind of show what I'm capable of still, even though I haven't really been in like the racing scene. Like, I'm always there, but I haven't been racing. I've just kind of been doing my thing on the side, pushing my style of play at the same time, not through gauntlets or like first 100s, but that doesn't mean I'm not competitive. I haven't had real interest in those, but this Diablo 4 push I had, and it felt good to come back for that. Also, I've been having a lot of issues with like my shoulder, RSI, and like some back problems, and I'm resolving those. And I was really worried before this race whether or not I would have had enough time to essentially work on my health and get ready physically. I've been doing a lot of bouldering, exercising, staying healthy, sleeping better, you know, better food, seeing a physiotherapist. So a lot of that, I think if I hadn't done that, I would have just, my body would have fallen apart on day 2. On the very last day, I did have to take a couple painkillers because some of it flared up again. But it was not something, it was very manageable, and I'm fine now. It'll be good when I go see my, like, I'm just kind of like soning it again. It's all getting better after a day already, so I'm not really worried, but I was definitely worried going into it. So with that out of the way, super cool race. You know, amazing gamers all around, really happy to win, and that was really cool. And I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Even though when I do race, I get into this like I can't multitask. I can't look at my chat. I get everything in my head. It's just a constant train of thought of ideas and things to do and how to improve and what am I doing and how to approach the next pack and how do we leverage having 2 sorcs and how do we convert this Carn's demise, which is optimally farmed as a 3-way into a 2-way farm, and will that actually be better? And then we have to optimize for movement speed so we can get to the... I was like, holy, there was so many things going on in my head, because we were at a... Once it changed into that, and their other group was doing 3-man farming, and we were doing 2 and 2. So they could essentially do all 3 sides at the same time. We had to do 2 and then finish. It wasn't the worst because it allowed someone to go out and reset the instance at the same time, but it was definitely... Oof, that was scary. But yeah, at the end, super cool race. Now, for one thing, a lot of people have been asking me about, which is the build. Now let's go and look at that. Let's go and look at that. Now here's the second part of it, which is we're gonna go over my little druid here. The world's first. Hardcore 100. Wow. It's kind of weird to say that. Especially with how many players played the game. It's crazy. Now. Yeah, this is my inventory after we're done. Okay, so. I guess we'll go over the skills first. Now. This is a landslide trample druid, which is formerly known as a trample slide. I wasn't really aware that this was even a build. When I was like just theory, because people had, it was no, when I was theory crafting like the days up until the launch, I stumbled on this legendary aspect, which is trample, now summon 6 landslides, and I already knew. Like from a damage perspective, that landslide is one of the highest damaging skills. Because it has like, so it has, it's a very high damaging skills. I do believe it's one of the highest single target skills right now. I mean, or at least that's easy to set up. I'm sure there's a lot of theory craft that will be done now to, I don't know, maybe we'll see. To tear each other, but it seemed to me that this was like on the druid at least. This seemed to be the most reliable high damage skill you could find, and I do think it's one of the highest damage skills you can play around. Now this landslide essentially makes the landslide hit twice, so it's 150 twice over, which is 300% damage, which from a baseline perspective is very high. That's very high. And it also has a critical strike damage multiplier. If you're critting. I'm not sure. Do you need a terror mode for this every time? Honestly, I don't even know. I'm not even sure. Maybe you do need the terror mode for the actual bonus, but we'll come around to that. I never actually tested whether or not just a crit or the terror mode was needed. I think you need a terror mode. Anyways, because that's where at the beginning we will use poison cure, but I'll explain. In the end game build is this. The end game build is this. It is Earth Spike, Landslide, Bulwark, Debilitating Roar, Trample, and Grisly Rage. And then we use Earthen Might. Now, the Earthen Might essentially solves our crit chance. So we can just stack as much crit damage as possible. Now, it's really hard to solve. Now, the thing is, though, having some amount of crit chance, though, on gear is not bad. Because, so what you can itemize for, so this is a lucky hit. Now what you can itemize for is lucky hit, but you can also just have some baseline crit chance. So that you have a higher chance, so this gives, it increases the lucky hit chance significantly. So if you don't have any amount of baseline crit, you're actually going to struggle to land the lucky hit in the first place. And the lucky hit is super important for what I was doing. Now let me explain then. So basically, you generate some spirit and then you start landsliding. Now we were playing with a sorc. Now, what happens when you play with a sorc is, and it's very crucial, they pull things together, and you can hit multiple enemies with landslides. That means you have multiple opportunities to lucky hit. And so when everything was running perfectly, and this is why I preferred playing 4-man, because then I could always just aim for the big groups and not the stragglers. The more we split out, the harder this became to play. That is also why this is harder to play as a solo player. Now you will stack them all up, and then you'll landslide on the pack, and essentially, I could, as long as there was multiple enemies in a pack, I had infinite spirit. I could just keep landsliding, because I would always proc the spirit. And it was like really, really good damage. And now for bigger packs, I could trample, and I'll go and show you real quick what a trample looks like. Now this is both an upside and a downside to the build, which is the sound of it. Oh, where are we? It's probably over here. Now. So I'm always in bear form. I'll go over the gear in a second. Essentially, landslide. Okay, as you can see here, landslide, boom, boom, that's 1, and that's 2. The 2 is because we have the double here. And now, then you also have this. Bum, 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 bum. And that works twice. As you can see there, that's the full. And once you get the full, once you go full here, like once you get the proc, you also have 5 seconds of crit. Now, that's why the proc is so important to hit early, because once you get the proc, you have 100% crit, and now you really capitalize on that lucky hit, and it just keeps going. So basically, which is also why when I gear, I try to get lucky hit, and then, but if I don't have lucky hit, I can always get some crit chance here and there, which is also nice. Another thing that's really nice is to have a high level of spirit, because a high level of spirit means that when you get a full bar recovered, you can essentially, you have more opportunity to land the next crit before you run out. So max spirit is a really good stat on this, because you capitalize on getting it full. Like, really, you don't want to use Earth Spike. It's oh, I ran out, I have to regain it only. So what are the reasons for running all these, like Trample, Earthen Bulwark, Grisly Rage? Now, the thing is, at higher level, you really need, especially on a hardcore, multiple ways of breaking out of CC and becoming unstoppable. Very important, especially when you play in a group. Having someone who can just stay around and tank, essentially to act as a you're not really a tank, but your presence is always there. When when your friends run away and you're left, well, they will attack you instead. Sometimes they will run after. That's kind of weird, but essentially, yes, you will just be the one to take the brunt of the damage, and you can like kind of intersect and stand between enemies when they're throwing projectiles and such. Earthen Bulwark scales really well with life, and we stack a lot of life. Debilitating Radiant Roar is just a good defensive cooldown whenever you're in a pinch, and it heals you, which is very nice. Trample, good for mobility, good for burst. You can take down literally an entire screen, even on 4-player. If they're vulned and you just hit the crit, so that's basically what you are trying to hit the Earthen Might crit before you trample. So you guarantee the crit on the entire trample, and you essentially evaporate the screen, even in 4-player content. I would evaporate a full screen of elites in a 4-player group with kind of unoptimized gear, or somewhat optimized gear, but with a single trample, which was very powerful. Now, let's just go over the legendary skills for what I have here. So I have Vasili's Prayer, which turns my Earth skills into Werebear skills. That means I can use Landslide and Earthen Bulwark while I'm in Grisly form, or in Grisly Rage. Because these are not Werebear skills by default. So you can't actually use Grisly Rage before you get the helmet. So before that, you want to run... I always get confused here. You want to run... the best skill to add in instead would be Poison Creeper. Now, Poison Creeper is honestly amazing with this because of the moats. And the fact that they poison, which has synergy with this node here in Venom. And Immobilize. And Immobilize gives you... what are these things called? Terra modes. Yeah, Terra modes. So it's incredible synergy. It's why it's such a good early game build. You go Poison Creeper and this. But once you start playing in a group, this is not as necessary. And I I reckon that I would rather have the damage reduction and the unstoppable from Grizzly Rage, which meant I could constantly be present in fights. Because once all the rares started stacking up with all the CC constantly around, it was really important to not get CC'd. As when you're CC'd, there's a chance you can die, and you can't do damage during that part. So being CC'd is just awful. So we want to not be that at all. So that's the turn. So early game, if you're playing this build, swap Grizzly Rage for Poison Creeper and do everything else the same here, basically. I got Insatiable Fury, which was amazing because it has more synergies here. You see this, there is this node right here, which essentially, as long as you remain in werebear form, for a long time, you get an overpower. And overpowers are insane. Just saying. That's why the overpowers are like really strong. Now this is interesting. In group play, Obsidian stuff. Before this was, because this was nerfed like mid, in the middle of this was nerfed like mid as we're going through it. It had 10 kill per. So basically, we would kill a pack, and I could literally one-shot it, and they would start like between every pack. We would have stragglers being killed by the other players, and that feeds into my overpower kill. I'm pretty sure that you get the unkill effect of your teammates, and I would basically be overpowering on like every pack. And it's just an obscene amount of damage with your life and fortify. Especially with how hard your skills hit. Which is also why we need to use like... I'm pretty sure this works this way. You want the slowest weapon possible for the highest hit possible per overpower. So that's why we're using this mace here, which is a slow attack speed. The DPS is not, it's the per hit that's important here. Also, it has overpower damage, so it hits like a truck. But yeah, the werebear +2, and it also means since all my earth skills are werebear skills, I managed to edge out a level 11 landslide. So big damage, big damage. Right. Let's see. What else can we go? Let's just keep going through the gear. Now, I was actually using the 5-second Grizzly Rage here on my gloves, but then I found better gloves, which were these, this is like Biz gloves, basically, like that have the perfect stats. I think attack speed is very powerful because when you have infinite, basically when you're spamming landslide, you can just keep doing it forever, and so it's just a straight multiplier. Crit multi after they nerfed the glyphs, very powerful. Lucky hit, it's just. You have to, more lucky hit is better, and rank to landslide. So these were actually, I found these at like level 90 something, like 93 or something. So these were the last piece of gear I upgraded, but very good. Then I used the pants here with the Earthen Bulwark, incredibly strong imprint here, or aspect. 6-second Bulwark again. The longer your Bulwark is up, the longer you're unstoppable. You pair that with the unstoppable node here. So, and 4 seconds out. While unstoppable, you have 25 movement speed. Very important, by the way, the movement speed for us. And the unstoppable for 4 seconds after. So not only does this last for... Is this 9 seconds because of that? Yeah, so it's 9 seconds... 9-second unstoppable, and then 4 seconds after you have movement speed. Very strong. So 9-second unstoppable and movement speed for 13 total. And then you can pair that with trample, which also breaks unstoppable. So you see here between Earthen Bulwark and trampling, when it runs, and trampling on cooldown, you basically have unstoppable all the time, and then you can Grizzly Rage as well for even more unstoppable if you had to like use them at like if Earthen Bulwark breaks. Then you have this as well. Or you can just Grizzly Rage and keep your Earthen Bulwark to when you're out of Grizzly Rage, and then you have unstoppable. So you basically perma unstoppable if played right. I didn't play it right all the time. My pants very strong here. Close to Biz rolls. Damage while fought, like close enemies, that's where you're mostly gonna get hit in close, and while fortified, you're always fortified, so it's with the best roll, and then max life, obviously. So these are pretty close as being as good as you can get here. The boots kind of suck, but basically, I couldn't for the life of me find movement speed boots, and I finally found a high eye level pair, and I just rolled for on kill movement speed. Honestly, these boots suck so much, because resist sucks so much. I didn't want any resist, but I was just struggling finding a proper pair, and it was at the time because we were basically I had already geared for one setup, which was group play oriented hard content, and then the other group decided to go, hey, we're gonna go speed farm these dungeons and split farm. And so all of a sudden I needed movement speed, and so I had to do this whole swap, and this is what I ended up with. They really suck, but we have the high level aspect and the 2 movement speed rolls, so you're really fast, and that's really important, especially when you have to run a lot between packs, because you don't want to use trample as a movement skill. It's your big burst. Again here, another movement speed. I found an amulet, movement speed, very high defensive amulet here. I'm always in werebear armor, like tons of armor. Obviously you can't see, I have like 7 something thousand armor. It's not the most, but it allows me to not have to use the armor aspect. I was tanky enough to not need to use that, and so I decided I don't need tank, I just need speed, which is also why I actually preferred the other one here, but I didn't have the Grizzly Rage one, and it wasn't that important. Now on here we have the trample, because I don't know what's actually, I think in hindsight, so this way I should have spent a little bit more time optimizing, because I know I have a high, like I think I have a 40 imprint somewhere. I should have put that on the amulet. I should have put the trample on the ring. I think this is correct, having like the 2, because I landslide as much as I trample, so more damage with crit, very strong, because you're constantly critting once you trigger your mastery, or whatever it's called. So that's very powerful. And then the double landslide. So that's the build essentially. We're capitalizing on creating as powerful landslides as possible with perma crits all the time, being super tanky, perma fortified with big overpower procs. Very good when you're killing a lot of monsters all the time, basically. For boons, reduced damage for elites. I mean, we're playing hardcore here. I would say that's the best one. You can get spirit as well if you feel like you're tanky enough, but yeah. Or yeah, this one kind of, it's why would you when you have unstoppable. Maximum life, again, we're playing it has synergy with fortify or with overpower. I will say attack speed here is a lot better than you think. It really smoothens the gameplay a lot. Increased crit chance is all right, and crit damage for damn. I think attacks for trample, this is better. For single target, I think this might actually be better than crit damage. I haven't run the numbers, but they're both good. Here, just more spirit, so I can keep landsliding if I don't hit the procs. Cooldown to companion skills. I mean, you could run, I don't know, you could run this if you run with the that one is actually not a bad idea to run. I would say there's a build there possibly if you're running it with the poison creeper. Let's see here. The fortify, this one's pointless. You fortify all the time. You have plenty of fortify options on the skill tree. I'll go over the passives in a second as well. And then down here, Obsidian Slam definitely. And then I did Calm Before the Storm. Honestly, I'm not sure if this was worth it. I think like leaning that much into, you can, because it also gains damage over time. I mean, honestly, I don't know. I think this is correct. And then because it's really good. The gain bonus damage, it's 20%, 20x is a lot. It's a lot of damage. It's a really powerful buff. No, definitely. And especially since we're stacking lucky hit. No, this is correct. You do this, and then you get the aspect over the the +2 ranks, because you want to be in Grizzly Rage all the time. So yeah. But this is basically what I ended up with. Some stats here. Lots of overpower damage, some crit damage. I would like to get more crit damage. Damage versus slowed is good. Against stunned. Stunned is not good. It's only good because I was in a group with a sorc that could stun. Damage versus poisoned. I don't poison that much, but I do poison a bit. It's mostly for single target. Damage to core, physical. Obviously, your willpower. Increase your skill damage. So willpower is good for more damage. But I think I have a good balanced setup here. Crit damage, vuln damage. Vuln damage is really... Vuln damage is the best one. Than anything else you can get. I didn't manage to upgrade this ring in time. I wanted to, but I kind of forgot in the end. Maximum Spirit is actually pretty nice here. Now, on to one more thing now, which is Paragon. Right, so for Paragon, we went with Spirit. Crit damage, obviously very good. It's not a very high level glyph, so it wasn't as powerful. But I mean, you still need the stats to unlock the secondaries, which is really important. And the X damage is very important as well here. And then you'll have, and then we have here, we have the damage while damage reduction again while fortified strong, and then a bit of damage, you know, good. And then for the next glyph of the Vuln. So these three are the best glyphs you can get. This one is mandatory. I had this down here early, and then I swapped them because this is a better spot for Dex to get even more Vuln damage. And then I had this one over here, which was Earth and Sky, to get X damage to get involved enemies. It was like the easiest way to get... So and all these like X damage multipliers are really powerful because they're all multiplicative every time. And so those were the glyphs I decided to go for. I couldn't really find one that was worth putting up here, so I ended up never doing that. For the boards I went with Survival Instincts, because I didn't want to die early on, so I got all the survivability notes here. These notes, damage to healthy enemies is not bad though. Could have gone for that. I think this was not been a bad note to go for either. This is armor. Honestly, I could have seen myself doing this. It's good for burst and clear. Honestly, I should have probably taken these, since I kind of did some filler stuff in the end. Yeah. Let's see. Up here, damage while healthy, very powerful with armor. And then obviously this node down here with damage reduction. Damage reduction is very powerful while fortified. Then we go into constricting tendrils. And this is why I don't need to run Poison Creeper, because now I can poison enemies and immobilize them by lucky hitting. So that's also why I want to lucky hit as much as possible, because I can generate motes through this node. Right. Where you have, then you have nature skill damage as well, and that's why it's so nice to turn, I think, was it? Oh, this one, right. I think this one makes it an earth skill as well, so your trample even benefits from the nature board as well. So this was just for like some nice raw damage early on, very strong. Get some life in here as well, damage to crowd control. It just has everything you want. And because you're taking everything on this board, it leads you out with two ways to get out of here. Like there's an easy exit here and here. I actually completely forgot about this up here and I went this way. I don't know why. Oh, it's because I decided I wanted all these nodes because I didn't really have glyphs at the time. And then I went for this one, which is Earth and Devastation. X damage to crowd control. You always crowd control them. You can slow them easily. You can crowd control in many ways. Enemies are always crowd controlled, so an easy 30% more damage. These I took at the end, I think. No, I took because it was an easy way to get through here, because you have to get this node. I don't believe in damage reduction or time, whatever, and the resist sucks. Right. Then going in here for the glyph. Just getting this for the willpower. I would have not taken them otherwise. But yeah, just to enable the glyph for the 10x damage. I didn't actually, in the beginning, I only had this and this unlocked, and this. So I went for this node, and this node, and then I went up for the next board, because I wanted Ancestral Guidance as well. After spending Spirit, I get another 30x damage. So these like X damage multipliers are super important for your damage. There's some of the most powerful stuff you can get. I don't think there are more boards that really benefit me a lot that I could think of. I looked around, it didn't seem so, because I was like, do I go for one more board with another one? The problem though with getting these is that you can't really meet the requirements anymore. Meeting the requirements is really important as well. Willpower int. I didn't really min-max that in the end. These pants were really nice for a while until I got more int to essentially meet the requirements. Yeah, then I went for max spirit in the end because it was just nice to have, like, it just made everything smoother to get this max spirit. I thought that was really like the what really made it just kind of like rounded out, just getting max spirit and some spirit on kill, and then getting this. So like super nice notes all around. Like the whole every board here is just nice. So you're pretty you're looking pretty good on druid for your boards at least. So yeah, overall very happy with the build. Super tanky, great single target, good screen clear with trample. You can save your teammates with debilitating roar, comment. Like, it's also why I put points in this to lower the cooldown, so I have more options to essentially just be like, bad pack, my mate is so what I would do a lot is steel would, so I was playing with steel, we were comboing, and he would jump in and I would try and like land a roar to make sure that he wouldn't get blown up while he was doing all of that. So that was a good combo. And then he could pull it together and we'd landslide it down or trample it. And it was like really cool. So yeah, that's my build. And that was the race. I definitely would recommend this build for anyone starting out. I think for smoothness, a lot of pulverize is still super strong. And I think with the nerf to this one, pulverize actually gained a lot. Because it has natural pulverize for every 12 seconds. You wouldn't think this is as good with this like 12 second in between, but even this 20, it's a lot better than you think because the overpower is so strong. Which also leads me into my next build, which is going to be a necro with life fortify stacking and overpower. But you can tune into my Twitch to see how that goes, and maybe I'll make a guide for that or something. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, some notes here, how you started out. I mean, before you get this stuff, I would definitely run Storm Strike and Poison Creeper. And Storm Strike is actually really important for single player, because otherwise you don't really have access to Vuln past the exploit glyph. So having a way to Vuln them more than doubles your damage when you hit the Vuln on targets eventually. So very important to be able to do that. For the passives here, I know we're going around a little bit. Okay, so 1 point here, you don't really, it's not really worth going for more points here. And then generate more spirit, just because you really just want to you want to have to use Earthspike as little as possible. And with that, I think Wild Impulses is maximum bait. I see this being picked in all the builds that I see released from people. It is the biggest bait build ever. There is nothing worse than running out of spirit. And this makes it so that you might actually run out of spirit before you trigger the Earthen Might. And you are spoiled for choice anyways. So why put yourself in a... It is a bait. I don't believe in that note at all. Later, min-maxed endgame, sure, you can sell it to me, because then you can perfectly solve spirit. But when you're setting up, no way, Jose. Right, we get fortify here, we got fortify here, plenty of options to fortify. Right, down here, take 1 point, because again, I don't believe in resist at all. And then damage reduction, crazy strong. Obviously, just even like when you're debilitating roar, you just can't die. That's how it is, right? Well, in high nightmare, whatever things, you will eventually, but we'll get around to that later. Or we will test the waters on that at some other time. Here, healing source is fine. It's actually healing. This node is I think better than you think, but not. It'll be more of a min max where you really have to tank. It's really hard content. I could see this actually being really strong. Temerity as well as pants could be interesting. Overpower, very strong. You definitely want to pick this up early. You never want to not be fortified. Being fortified fast is really important. So what I would do is I would proc my crit and I would trample through a pack and I would hit the entire pack with crits and my fortify would just go brrr, and I would have full fortify. So safeguard very strong. While you have fortify, earth skills, more damage is always good. while they're slowed, immobilized, you're always slowing them. Or you can essentially set it up. There is a, you can get always slow on an aspect if you're solo play. That's very strong. You should probably use that. And I had that instead of the boot because before speed farming. So that's like the thing I changed. Immobilize and stun. Immobilize again. You have this as well early on. Trample, strong, boom, boom, fortify. You could get spirit here as well. Not a bad choice. Defiance, nature damage to elites. More nature damage. Damage to Vuln. Another reason why we need to Vuln everything. I didn't take any of this. Also heal you for... I could have taken... I wasn't really afraid of healing. Healing up was not the dangerous part. It was getting blasted. Essentially... while being... CC'd. So there was like... I just didn't want to die while being CC'd. Healing up was fine. It was easy. Let's see here. This one could see some play if you're using Storm Strike. And then just straight down to Earthen Magic. Now you could do the blah 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 blah. No, because we're not really after you. You're constantly in bear form in the end, so you don't use this. And then Earthen Might. Yeah. So that's it. That's the build. I know this was a very long video. Holy shit. But yeah, I haven't made a video in a long time. This is just a lot of my thoughts. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I know it's a long one, builds and everything, but I don't know. Diablo 4 is just, as a note here in the end, I am very pleased with the baseline of Diablo 4. Its customization. Gearing is a lot more interesting than I thought it would be. Resistance sucks. Fix it. Aspects, I really like them because there are more good aspects. Like there are so many aspects you want to use, but there's only so much space. That's a very good thing because you have to make a choice. You have to make a sacrifice. Very good. UI could see some improvement and stash management. Yeah. Aesthetics, amazing. Ambience and everything, amazing. And we're going through the story right now. Boss fights. Some of them are really good. I won't spoil anything. But, I don't know. I think a lot of them could use a little bit more, a lot more character. Especially the ones in the dungeons. I think that would be one of my critiques in terms of like the overall feel and atmosphere of the game. Is that one was a little lacking, but voice acting great, the ambience, the music, the sound, the sound design, the graphics, just it feels really nice to play. It feels nice to play with friends in a group. It feels nice to play solo. It's just a nice game, but with a lot of stuff still to be improved. But I think they managed to build a world with a lot of space for improvement. And they inhabited it in a way that I thought was very nice. I'm definitely having a great time. I'm going to be playing a lot more. I'm going to be on the Necro for a while now. Going through the story and then making a min-max character there as well. See like min-maxing throughout the whole process. So if you're interested in how I would go about the process if I'm not speedrunning, tune in for that. And with that, I'm not going to keep you any longer. That's it from me. Hope to see you soon. Maybe on stream, maybe here. There'll probably be more videos, surely. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Bye.